Turn on the light.
Look at that. In all
Very
their
hot.
glory.
You met them, right?
I did meet them.
Yeah, that's
Actually,
so cool. Are you gonna tell that story?
I should tell that story really quick.
Okay.
All right, so that is Kisses on My List by Hall & Oates. We love Hall & Oates.
I love Hall & Oates.
Oh my gosh, it's from their 1983 record, Rock and Roll Soul Part 1. So that was our intro song today. But I did meet them, gosh, had to have been back in probably 2014. I was in Atlanta working at the Atlanta market, and they had like this huge Bakewood event, and they happened to be playing there, and I got to see them in person and live, and it was amazing.
Did you freak out?
I freaked out a little bit. I think I was like 25 at the time. I mean, I really, really love them now. I mean, I've really gotten more into them and their music. But the next day they were leaving, and I happened to be sitting outside, and there they are getting into their van. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are so awesome. I love you. Ah! And then they were like, okay. And then they just left. Little girl. Yeah, anyway, so that's a fun, cute little story. So anyways, yeah, we love them. Hall & Oates, they're great. So today is going to be a little bit different. It's probably going to be the heaviest podcast episode that we probably will record. It is very important to us. I know that when we first came on here, the goal for us is to be genuine and transparent with our lives and who we are and our healing processes and everything that we've gone through as individuals and things we've gone through together. So today we want to talk about two different separate events that happened in our lives. Very traumatic, very tragic and sad. So bear with us through this. We're probably going to be some tears.
It's going to be a tough day.
It's going to be tough, but we want to share this with you guys. We think it's extremely important. Also, it's just really important for you guys to understand like who we are as people, the things that we are trying to heal currently, the things that we have gone through. And I think it'll make a little bit more sense for you guys as we continue down this podcast journey with you. So that being said, it is going to be a longer episode. We believe that we want it to be longer. Initially, we had talked about having shorter episodes, but this we want to take our time with because it's extremely important to both of us. So yeah, I want to start off with saying this is kind of going to be like our, I don't know, it's a really good intro, I think, for what we're about to talk about. My Aunt Sarah actually had sent me a message in regards to our podcast and just talking to me about how proud she was of us doing this. And she knows my story, my backstory, and you guys are going to get to know a little bit more about that. But she had texted me and said, have you ever heard that phrase, make your mess your message? Which I hadn't. And I thought, wow, that's a really, really cool thing. And Joan and I have been working on changing how we look at our traumatic life experiences and having to understand deeper how we can look at these things in a more positive light. So that is something that we're trying to do. And a big thing for our podcast here is being open to you guys. And we know that so many people and women are dealing with some of the same things that we're going to talk about today. Maybe not exactly the same, or somebody that you know could be affected in the same ways. So we really just hope that you guys find some peace and comfort in what we're going to talk about. Another thing that she had said, and I want to read this really quick, was she said, your trauma, pain, mistakes, healing, all of it is a gift you give to others. You never know how sharing your story will heal others and provide healing to you, which is beautiful. My aunt, she's so wise and amazing. I just love her. So thank you, Aunt Sarah, for sending that to me. It's very encouraging. So I want to start off. I'm going to talk about my life a little bit, and then Joan's going to go into hers as well. So many of you guys might know this about me. Some know more, some know less. Some might not know at all. But when I was 11, I just turned 11, my mother was tragically murdered. December 3rd, 2000. So I'm going to kind of go back. So we're going to take you back so you guys can understand my journey and my story with that, my mom's story. It's really important to me. Just a warning for anybody. This is talking about domestic violence, abuse, trauma. Joan's going to be going into dealing with the death of her husband, which it can be, there's so many triggers that this could be really hard for some people to listen to. So we did want to give that disclaimer. So my mother, her name was Shelly, and she was born by my grandparents. I call them Nan and Pop. You'll probably hear me talk about Nan and Pop, but Lyndall and Jean Coates, they're angels living on this earth. I am so grateful for them. I would not be the woman that I am today if I didn't have them. So I just want to put that out there. My mother also is an older sister to my Uncle Jeff. They're 3 years apart. And my mother met my father, Kevin, and they fell in love and got married and had me. So I'm so grateful for that. But unfortunately, like a lot of marriages, things happen, things change. And my mother was going out with some girlfriends, probably in some areas and bars that she shouldn't be in as a married woman, and met this man. They became, kept seeing each other more, and eventually fell in love, and an affair happened. So my mother was seeing this other man. One day, there was some kind of altercation between my mom and this man, and my mom was driving my dad's sports car at the time. I was about 2 years old, and she had gotten a wreck. Luckily, she was okay, but my dad found out the hard way, and from what my grandma had said is that he probably knew a little bit before that, but that's what happened. So fast forward.
So that's when he found out about the affair.
Yeah, that's how my dad officially had found out. I believe now.
He had some concerns.
Yeah. And that's between my dad and my mom. I've never really talked to my dad about those things. It's just a lot of this is coming from my grandparents or friends or family and things like that. But my mom got pregnant with my brother, and so my parents got divorced, understandably. My dad adored my mom, loved my mom so much. But
so your mom got pregnant with your brother with the man that she was having the affair with.
Correct. Okay. Yes. My stepdad eventually to come in. And so my parents were separated. They got divorced. My mother was with this new man, and they got married when my brother was around 3 years old. Now, I can't really remember too much because I was so young and little at the time, but from talking to my grandmother about everything, they had issues prior to getting married. Apparently, there was an ultimatum set that if you don't change your ways, if you don't ship and shape up, then we're not getting married. So
that's what your mom told her.
That's what my mom told my stepdad. Mm-hmm. So apparently there was abuse happening, or some sort of abuse before they got married. They ended up getting married when my brother was around 3 years old. And that's when I really started remembering and understanding and seeing the acts of violence. There's so much that goes into domestic violence. I'm going to talk more about that as I go, but and these are my experiences. So my mother was extremely spunky. She was a fighter. She was 5'4". That didn't stop her. It didn't matter. She could have been 6'2". She was life of the party, outgoing, always getting into some kind of trouble. My nan would say, "Oh, your mom." We'd get calls that she was making retainers at school and selling them for a couple of bucks. Like, she was just a character. But she was spunky. So this is just from my point of view, my perspective. I'm telling this story from my eyes as a child. I know that my mom had several friends, very close friends, that know a lot more than I do, but I'm okay with that. I know me and you had talked about that, and you had asked me, if how I felt about that, and I'm like, you know what? I know what I know. I know enough, and I don't need to know any more details about what happened to my mom.
So like we said, it's not going to benefit you in any way to know that. Right.
Exactly. So I'm telling it on my through my eyes. So I would say I was probably 6 when I really start remembering some of these instances. I remember just feeling very fearful living in my home at the time. We lived in Lee Summit, and that was a house that I was raised in. My was built by my grandparents and given to my mom and dad when they as a marriage gift. And then my dad, in return, gave it to my mom because he wanted to make sure that we were safe, me and my mom, living with my stepdad. So I grew up there. And now I will say, these memories and these moments that I remember, it's not easy to talk about. It's very difficult, and I mean, I'm 35, and it doesn't get any easier thinking about these things. But I do think it's important to share. So when I was younger, these altercations and these things became more apparent, became more aware, became more public. A lot of times with domestic violence, it's like these honeymoon phases. So they fight and it's really bad, but then they make up and everything's okay, and it's okay for a while, and it's okay for a while, and then it happens again. So from what I remember is that I started realizing that my house is not safe. It's not a safe place. It's not a happy place. My dad, at the time, he would get me every other weekend and come see me on Wednesdays, and I would just be devastated. I would be devastated. I did not want to go back home, which is not normal. And especially if my mom wasn't there, it was just my stepdad. I mean, I just remember bawling and crying and I don't want to go. I don't want to be here. I was just so fearful. My and my mom, like so many people that live in a DV relationship, she didn't want anyone to know. My grandparents certainly did not know. My uncle did not know. My dad did not know. If my dad knew, my dad would have taken me right out of there, and my brother if he could have. But she was so strong, and she did not want people to worry. Her friends knew because she needed somebody to confide in. The neighborhood knew. We lived in a cul-de-sac, and the police were at our house several times, many different instances, and it just kept getting worse. So there were a couple of times where they would be so bad that I would have to go get my little brother, and he's 3 years younger than me, and bring him into my room and just try to console him because he's crying, and it was just so scary. I mean, yelling, slamming doors, my mom screaming, stomping, and then silence, and just not knowing like where's mom, where is he at, what's happening, like, and it just kept happening. It kept getting worse and worse.
How old were you when you were taking care of your brother like that?
6, 7,
Yeah.
8, 9, 10.
Something someone so young should never have to do.
Yeah, I definitely had to grow up very fast, in so many ways because it was like a defense, like I had to take care of my brother. Like, I have to be strong. I had to be strong for my mother and all these things. It's a lot for a little kid to try to understand, but it was my life. It was my reality. I didn't know
You probably,
any different.
you probably didn't know
I
any
didn't know any different.
Right.
I mean, I knew it was wrong because I would go with my dad and I would feel safe. But I just I couldn't really comprehend like how big it was, how much bigger it was than me, and there was one instance where they had been fighting, and we were outside, and I knew that's when it started getting even worse because it was not in closed doors anymore. It was
worse
outside.
Because other people could see
Other
it
people
now.
could see it was in plain daylight, and he had pushed my mom, and she fell and it scraped up her legs and her arm. And I remember just screaming and just running as fast as I could. And I'll never forget it because I was wearing these little flip-flops and I was like, I'm just going to run. And I just ran down the cul-de-sac, my flip-flop, just screaming, help me, just pleading for anybody to help me, help my mom. And our neighbor was a police officer down the street. So I went to him because I knew like if I was going to go anywhere. And my mom would go down to her really close friend's house. She lived down there, one of her best friends. And I hated that because I wanted her to be safe, but then she would leave us.
Yeah.
And I was so deathly scared of my stepdad. I didn't know what he was going to do. If, one day he was going to hit me or my brother. So it was scary. I was always living in fear. There was another instance where this was not soon before my mother was killed that they were having an altercation. I never knew what it was about. It's, adults, like when you're 10 years old, you really don't know what's going on. But it was so bad that I got out of my room, which typically I wouldn't do. I would stay in my room. I'd get my brother and we would stay in my room. But I got out, and my stepsister was there. By the way, I didn't say that, but my stepdad has a daughter that's a couple years older than me, and she would come stay with us, and she was there. And I remember I looked out the hallway, and my mother was screaming for help, and he was choking her against the wall, screaming. And my stepsister went out there and just didn't know what to do. And he was like, don't, she was saying, call the cops. And he's like, don't you dare. And it was just back and forth. And I was like, screw this. I ran to their bedroom and I grabbed that phone and went under the bed and called 911. And I just remember saying, like, help, my mom needs help. She needs help. And they were, trying to keep me on the line. And then I heard him, coming, and I had to go. And, thank God, like, me calling just stopped that. Thankfully, and, the police came and they separated them like they always do. But, my mother didn't want to press charges. It's a different time now. Thankfully, it's a little bit better. But he would go his separate way. She would go his. They would cool down. Then they would come back together. So there were several instances that are just burned in my mind that I will never forget. The sound, feeling, her face, just the terror, So there's just some instances there that, just as a child, I think back as an adult now, that I'm just like, wow, like, it seems like so out of body to me, because we had talked about this, about like me, like, disassociating with my life. Like, I'm not really here, like, I'm somewhere else, which is very common. Like, it's a very common trauma response. And, me and you have talked a lot, because we are trying to heal. And just like me as an adult now, finally understanding, like, some of these things. Why did I feel this way? Why did I forget things? Why am I this, all these things. And it's now finally, like, making sense to me. There's other stories that, I mean, countless of times that I don't know about. Those are just a couple of times that I really, really remember. My grandmother's talked to me about so many things. About, one time my mom told them, I mean, because she was really, really, really good. And you got to remember this. She did not want my grandparents to know anything was happening. So she would do anything and everything to convince them that she was okay. And, like, one time she had this huge cut over her eye and she had to go get stitches. And the story was that she told my grandma and my uncle that she was scraping her windshield and a piece of ice flew up and, cut her. Well, she was adamant that she was not going to the doctor. 100%, I'm not getting these stitches out, whatever. And turns out that it was because the doctor was encouraging her to go get help to press charges. And she did not want to hear that. She was not ready to do that.
Well, I'm sure there was a lot of fear, because what if she leaves him? Then what's going to happen? What's going to happen to you? What's going to happen to your brother?
Exactly. There was so much fear in that. And so she sat at my grandparents' dining room table, and my uncle removed the stitches from her eye. There's so many times where she was too sick to come to the door when my dad would come get me. And I know my dad, I had talked to him, he would always think that was kind of odd, like he couldn't see my mom. She couldn't come out of the room. It's because she had been beaten. She had multiple black eyes. We went to Disneyland. This was about a year and a half after they were married. So that kind of puts it in perspective for you, that honeymoon period where he behaved long enough for them to get married, and then it started right back up. But it was so bad that he had strangled her so bad that both of her eyes were bloodshot. And in pictures I can see, you can see it looks like her eyes are cross-eyed. That's how bad it was. So this was ongoing. It went on for years. I have heard some other stories that I just don't want to share, because out of the decency for my mom and her privacy, there's some really, really bad things.
It's okay, Sammy. You're doing great. You're doing so good.
Love you too. But this is
I mean, this is what it looks like, I've lived with this for so many years, and the pain is always there. It's never going to go away. It just changes. And it comes in waves. It's harder some days than others. It's harder at different moments. I didn't get to like really know my mom the way that I really wish I had, because she was taken from me when I was so young. But I know that she loved me, and I know she loved my brother and my grandparents and my uncle and my dad and her friends, and that's enough for me. But I want to move on and talk about the day that she was murdered, because I feel like that's really important for her story. So right before Christmas, December 3rd, I guess it would be December 2nd, my thank you. My mom, my stepdad attended a Christmas party for his work. I'm not going to say where he worked. However, they got into an altercation. Things were said that upset him, and my mother left him at the party. And she came home that night to our house in Lee Summit and locked all the doors, but forgot to lock the sliding glass door in the back, and she went to sleep on the couch. Now, how the story goes is that my mother had taken the car and taken the keys, and so he didn't have a way to get home. He didn't have keys to get in or any of that. So he had said that he had walked home, which would have taken him hours, which would have taken him plenty of time to have calmed down, one would think, before he came home and to find my mother. Now, it's not 100% clear if he did walk or if he did get a ride, but it is, we all suspect that he did get a ride home. Now, between that time that my mom left him and him getting home, apparently he had taken some form of drug and probably was drinking too. So, it's never good mixture, combination.
Yeah.
And the second that he got through that glass door, he didn't even give my mom a chance, not a fighting chance. He got home and he just beat her to death. And he called his mother before he called 911. We don't know what was said, but I'm guessing he just told her that he thinks that he killed Shelly, and she told him to call 911, his mom. So we called, and then they found my mom. They took her to St. Joe Civ Hospital, and they were able to stabilize her heart. And at that point, he had beaten her so bad that she was brain dead. My grandparents were notified at 7 a.m. By that neighbor, my mom's good friend that lived in a cul-de-sac, that my mom had been taken to St. Joe. So they went straight there. I was actually ironically staying at my stepdad's mother's house, my stepmother, my step-grandma in Lone Jack, and was staying there. And it's just so hard for me. And I told you this earlier, that I was there when he called her and told her that he had just killed my mom. It's such a weird feeling to know that. And I just remember being there in the morning, having breakfast, and not even knowing that anything had happened, which is also very bizarre to me.
It seemed normal. She was acting normal
to me. I don't know, maybe I just didn't pick up any of the signs, but I have always thought that was very strange. And then my dad comes to the door and he's crying, and I immediately know that something happened to my mom. He told me that we need to go straight to the hospital, and I just knew. I had known that something was going to happen if she didn't leave him. I heard her say multiple times throughout arguments, you're going to kill me, you're going to kill me. And I would pray. And Joan, I think this is really hard for me because I've talked to you about this. I would pray every single night. I would pray. I would pray that my mom would leave. I would pray that we would go live with my grandparents. I would pray, take us away from here, God, take us away, take us away. Then and then, he did that. Like, he did that. And it's hard for me to come to terms with that. But he did answer my prayers and he did take us away. But he also took my mom too. So when I arrived at the hospital, my grandparents were there, my uncle was there, some friends of my mom's were there, and I got taken to a room and basically was told that you can't see your mom. Talking to my grandma, she is so strong and brave. It's amazing to me, but she had told me that when she got in there was a nun that met her and basically told my grandma that there was no hope, which is so hard to hear and so weird to hear, but I think she was just trying to be realistic with my grandma. And my grandparents, my dad went in there and saw her, and they said that they really wish they hadn't because she was unrecognizable. The only thing that they could recognize was her hair because she had so much swelling from being beaten to death. And I'm thankful that I didn't see that. It makes me sad though because I didn't get to say goodbye. I don't even know, like, I think about it, I don't even know if when I left her, if I gave her a hug. I can't remember.
But it was just like any other day, Sammy. You can't beat yourself up over that because you thought you were going to your step grandmother's. They were going to a party. You were going to see her the next day.
I know.
I mean, you were so young.
It's hard, It's hard thinking back. Like, you always want to say, like, oh, what if, or I wish I could have, I would have, it's just always so many of those things that go through your mind, but she passed away December 3rd, 2000. They had to take her off. She was brain dead. She was on life support, but the doctors did tell my grandparents that she was so strong that her heart just kept beating and never gave out. And that was my mom. She was extremely strong. But she did pass away and she was taken away from us. And every day, every day I'm sad about it. Every day I miss her. But I want to go into the trial a little bit because I think that's important too. Because there was so much support for my mom from the community. There was so much support from my grandparents. It's very much a blur to me. I was in shock. I was in a state of shock, I think. Everything just happened so fast but so slow at the same time. It kind of felt like, when I think about it, it kind of felt like I was living in slow motion, but then it was just quick at the same time. It's hard to explain, but we had a funeral. We had a big memorial service at First Baptist Church in Lee Summit, and that was very much a blur for me. But I do remember sitting in this specific room for people to just come, they would just walk, and it just never end. It was just hundreds of people I didn't know, people that were coming to support my mother that had heard about it on TV. It was in the news. It was on the newspaper. I remember my classmates just coming by and, you just sit there. It was such a strange feeling.
Didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense. Yeah. No, it didn't make sense. Like, I knew that my mom had passed away, but it was just, it's like the whole disassociation thing comes in, play there. I just wasn't in my body, but so we had her funeral. We had a funeral down home, down in Nixa. That's where she's buried. That's where my grandmother is from. So I got to help pick out. I actually designed her headstone, and we go see her from time to time. Not as much as I probably should, but it's really hard, to go visit that. But that's where I'll be buried. So someday I'll see her. So after she had passed, a couple things that happened. My stepdad was in jail, and my grandparents were told that he was not going to be bailed out. No, bail was $25,000 to get him out.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of money. And his mom promised my grandparents that she would not do that, and then she did. She bailed him out. So he was out and about, running around, out in Lone Jack, living his life, doing whatever he was doing. For several years, he did attempt to kill himself. He didn't do it. He didn't. I guess he shot himself in the stomach. I don't know. And so that prolonged trial, right? So my grandparents wanted a jury trial, but they did not get that. His mother had quite a bit of money and hired the best, they said, defense attorney in Kansas City at the time. So it was definitely, we're going to try to do what we can to keep him getting from that first degree sentencing. So that's why they didn't want to do a jury trial, because most likely the jury would have found him guilty of first degree murder. So the trial took place in 2002. So it took several years. I was 13 at the time, was living in Overland Park with my dad and stepmom. And I don't think I ever really processed really anything. I mean, I'm just kind of processing things as an adult now. So I just got thrown into a new school, a new world, a new life. I got separated from my brother. My brother went to go live with my grandparents. Truth be told, I really wish I could have just gone and lived with my grandparents, because my grandparents are they're like my parents. I'm very, very, very close with them prior to my mom's death. My mom was extremely close with my grandparents. So it just felt like home, just felt like natural. But it was really hard for me because me and my brother got separated. And it was just like, you didn't even live this life. This is your new life,
Gosh, that had to be so weird at such a young age.
It was so weird. All my friends are gone. I didn't see my friends again. It's so bizarre to think back about. And I just want to, real quick, before we start this talking about the trial, I want to talk about the effects on my brother too, because oh my gosh, my brother is an amazing man. He is an amazing brother. He's an amazing husband, an amazing dad. Amazing. My grandparents raised him. He's just a wonderful person, very successful, what he does, great. Great, great guy. Cannot speak enough about my brother. I'm very proud of him. But I think about myself, I mean, we all do, right? How is this affecting me? But I've always thought about my brother, because not only did my brother lose his mother, but he also lost his father, because this is my half brother. So his dad is in jail. And he's 3 years younger than me. So him trying to process this it's different. It's completely different. Him trying to understand things, what's going on. It was hard enough for me, and I just turned 11. His birthday is December 1st. I know. So he went to go live with my grandparents, and oh my gosh, he had so much anxiety, and I mean, how could he not? That little boy was put through so much and did not understand anything. How could he? I was trying to process things. And I just think about oh my gosh, that emotional toll and trauma that he went through. Starting a new school, living with my grandparents, not having his dad, not having his mom, not understanding. There's a lot of, excuse me, other things that my brother had to endure too that I won't go into, because that is his story. But I cannot say how proud I am of him, and how proud of him as a man and the person that he is today. It's amazing, it truly is. And my grandparents as well, they went through so much. I mean, they lost their daughter, their only daughter. Not only did they lose her, but did they have to go through all the legal battles they had to go through. I mean, going through her life, our house, figuring out how to raise my brother, going through this trial I'm about to talk about. I mean, I can't imagine. I really, really can't. They're amazing. They're so strong. And
they're just beautiful. Like, that's all I can say. I'm just so grateful to have them. And I talked to my grandmother this morning about coming on here and talking about this, and she's just so freaking strong. She is so strong. It's amazing. It's amazing. I just love them so much. So I just wanted to say that really quick. But so the trial was 2002. I was 13, and it was a huge deal. It was a huge trial. There were so many people. I couldn't really understand it, but looking back at it, it's amazing because the Hope House, I want to talk about them a little bit. They were there every single day of the trial. They were there supporting my family, my grandparents. They did so much for them. So thank you so much for being there. There were women that were in similar situations that heard about my mother's death, and they were there. I mean, the courtroom was completely packed with people that I didn't even know. So the community really came out and supported my family and my mother, which I thought was so amazing, so beautiful. But the prosecuting attorney thought that it would be good if I wanted to go and testify against my stepdad. And I did. Obviously, like, being 13, I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't really know how hard it was going to be. I just knew that I wanted to do something to help my mother in any way that I could. And so I had wrote something. I don't even remember what I wrote, but I wrote something. And I got up there, and the second I got up there, I saw hundreds of people. But the only one that really stood out to me was my stepdad. And he was sitting right in front of me, and my little mind, I didn't think that he would be right there. I don't know. I just didn't really think about it. And it was the first time that I had seen him since.
I'm sure it was scary.
It was very scary. And I got up there, and I attempted to say what I was going to say, and I couldn't. Just crying. And that's honestly all I remember. I just remember just being so panicked and overwhelmed. It was just so overwhelming. But unfortunately, he got tried a second degree. He didn't get first degree. That big power attorney really did their job and really painted light of my mom and the relationship in a lot of different lights. There were a lot of things that were said that were really hard to hear, I remember. But basically what it came down to is that they couldn't prove that he had strangled her, even though there were 2 broken bones in her neck. So he said that he sat on her. So I know there's probably more that goes into that, but basically they couldn't get him on first degree. Unfortunate. So he did get second degree. He got 23 years sentencing, but he could get out in 18 if, parole, if he behaved and whatnot. Which is mind-blowing to me, that you could kill somebody with your own 2 hands and not get a life sentence. Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's really hard to swallow. And he's out. So he got out. It'll be 3 years ago, December. He's been out. He served in Cameron, and I did go up there for the parole hearing. It was something that I had debated about my entire life. Confronting, the whole confrontation thing. Like, I'm going to go, I thought, well, when I'm 18, I'm going to go up to prison. I'm going to tell him, this, and you're this, or whatever. And, I just never did. I just didn't feel right. Like, something didn't feel right about it. I mean, that's not really who I am anyways. But when I heard that the parole hearing was coming up, I knew in my heart instantly. I said, this is it, Sammy. This is what your mom would want you to do. This is your time to tell him how he affected you, what he did to your family. This is it. So my grandparents asked me, they said, hey, it's up to you. We support whatever you want. If you want to go up there, we will go up there with you. And I said, I absolutely want to do it. I want to see him. I want to tell him exactly what he did to our family. And it took me 30 minutes. I wrote down everything I wanted. We got there, probably sat in a room no bigger than this, which I did not expect. I thought we were going to be in a big courtroom.
And was he in there?
He was in there.
Oh,
he was sitting probably 3 or 4 feet away from me. My uncle got on, and he said what he wanted to say about everything. And then it was my turn. And you know what, Joan? Like, I wasn't hateful.
I wasn't angry. I didn't cuss. I didn't curse. I didn't do any of that. I just wanted to make sure that he heard how he affected me, my children, my brother, my grandparents, every single thing that he took away from me and all those people. I wanted to make sure that he understood, right? So I said what I wanted to say. I looked at him the entire time and he would not look at me.
Gosh.
He would not look at me. Not once did he look at me. But that gave me so
That
much
gave you-
power.
right, because you were, yeah.
I was brave. I was not
Mhm.
fearful of him any longer. I got to see what he was and what this has done to him. And it did. It gave me my power back, and it made me feel like it gave my mother power too. So and that wasn't not just me. I don't want to say that. We had family members that wrote letters. I mean, so many people, cousins, people that had always been by my side, by my grandparents' side. I mean, we had an amazing, amazing supportive family and friends that wrote letters to the parole board as well, that they read those too. So I want to say that as well. And even through the trial and everything, there's so many family members that stepped up and were there for my grandparents and did so many things for them. So I just want to tell everybody that's ever did anything, thank you so much for that, because you guys are all just wonderful and beautiful, and just love you for that. But we did get the call and he didn't make parole. So he had to stay in there for the full sentencing. And that
Nice.
I was so happy
Mhm.
about that. It made me finally feel at peace. I was happy that I was able to tell what I needed to tell and not be angry, because I didn't want to be angry.
Well, you haven't told me this story, but that does not surprise me one bit,
Mhm.
because that's the way you are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, so that is some of my mom's story. Now I do want to there's a couple of things too that I want to talk about, because being a child, I had talked to Joan about this, because now I'm trying to work through all this. I haven't worked through it. I just kind of lived my life. I suppressed everything down like a lot of people do, and just kept going, because I'm like, yes, this happened to me. I'm going to minimize this. Things happen to people all the time. I just was in a new life. I'm going. So it catching up to me. It's caught up to me. So there are a couple of things that I really struggled with, coming to terms with, was when I was young, little, living with my mom during those times. I struggled tremendously in school. I could not read. I struggled with math. Hated school. I felt stupid. I felt like an idiot. My mother, my parents were frustrated because I was struggling so much in school. And it wasn't until I got out of that environment and after my mom passed away, I went to live with my dad, that all of a sudden I didn't have any issues in school. I could read, I could do all this stuff. But I didn't think anything about it. I was just like, oh, maybe I'm smart. I'm not dumb anymore, as kids think. But as I got older and I started kind of thinking back about things and my struggles, and, as, people do, it really dawned on me and hit me that it wasn't because I was stupid. It wasn't because, I was dumb, I couldn't read or whatever. It was literally because I was in such a toxic state and such a chronic state of stress and in fight or flight for years and years and years, that my little brain literally did not have the capacity to learn these things.
Well, it was protecting you.
It was protecting me.
Mm-hmm.
It was a protection mechanism, and that made me so sad. It made me so sad for this little girl that hated herself for it and beat herself up every single day because I thought something was wrong with me. I was disappointing my mom. I was stressful for my parents, and it wasn't my fault. None of it was my fault. And it wasn't until, really, and I probably in the last 5 years have I really understood, why did I struggle? Why did these what is this? Why do I have a hard time setting boundaries like we talk about? Why am I such a people pleaser? Why am I afraid of confrontation? Why is my gut so messed up? What's wrong with me? Nothing is
Nothing.
wrong with me.
Right.
What happened to me? That is the thing.
Mhm.
It's not what's wrong with you. It's what
Correct.
happened to you.
Right. Because you
And-
didn't make those choices to have any of that happen in your world. So how can that be your fault? How can
Right.
it be your problem? How can it be that something's wrong with you?
Right. But that's what we do.
I know, it is what we do.
We want to. We
Mhm.
think, what did I do? What am I not doing?
Mhm.
And so that is why, like, obviously, like, I want my mom's story out there because she deserves to have it told. I deserve to have it out there because it's such a huge part of who I am. My brother does, my grandparents do, her friends do. Like, she was a light in this world that was taken. And there are so many women and men out there that are in the same situation that she was in. Domestic violence is such a huge deal even now. Like, people think like, oh, it's not as prevalent. No, it is.
Mhm.
People are dealing with it every single day. Children are dealing with it every single day. And my hope, like I said in the beginning, is to get the word out. So if you know anybody that's in a relationship, in a DV relationship, or a child that's parents are, I just want to say, like, one thing: do not ever ask a DV victim, why are you staying? Why did you not leave him? Why? That's like saying, Joan, why do you breathe air?
To survive.
To survive.
Mhm.
They're surviving. They're doing the best that they can do. There are 1,020,000 reasons why DV victims do not leave. Money, finances, fear of being judged, fear of resentment, fear of disappointing others. Like, it's not because they're weak. It's not because of one thing. It's a million things. My mother was not weak. My mother was strong. Victims are not just one face,
Right.
one person. It's anybody. It's everybody. You can be successful. You can be strong. You can be independent. You can be all these things. It does not, domestic violence does not have a face.
It doesn't discriminate.
It does not discriminate.
Mhm.
And so if you ever know anybody that's going through something, just love them. Love them unconditionally. Be supportive. Give them resources. But please do not make them feel judged. Please do not ask them why.
That if you ask them why, that's going to make them go into more hiding.
Exactly.
Because then they're going to have to defend themselves and justify.
Right. And you never want anyone that's in a situation like that to feel that way, because they already are feeling down.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to my brother earlier about this morning before we filmed this, because I wanted to make sure that he was okay with me talking about this. And he was. And we literally were talking about this exact same thing. Is you don't know what's going on. I don't know what was going on in my mother's head. I know that she was not well. I know that she was not healthy. She was not safe. And it's sad because me and my brother don't really know my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And even the mom that we had, she was doing the best to survive.
So she wasn't being her authentic, genuine self because she couldn't.
How could
out
she?
Of fear.
How could she?
Yeah.
And I think about that all the time. I think about it too because I turned 35 this year. My mother died when she was 35. And so this year has been particularly hard for me because I feel so young. I'm so young. I have so much life. I have so many things to give still. I have so many experiences I want, to experience. I want to see my children grow up. And that is so, so hard for me to come to that realization that I will always be older than my mother. I will always be older than my mother. And
knowing that she didn't get to experience all the things that you're getting to experience with your kids and with everything and your husband and your life.
She won't know any of it. And that's the real tragedy there, is that my kids don't know her. My brother's kids don't know her. She wasn't there at my wedding. All those things that you just want to share with your mom. She wasn't there. I mean, I believe that she was there in spirit. Like I do believe that. But it's a very strange feeling. Like we talk about grief, it comes in waves. And this year it was different because I'm like, this was my mom. We are the same age.
Yeah.
Like, look how different our lives are. And I told my husband that, and I said, man, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky to be married to you. Like, I'm so lucky to have this family. I'm so lucky that for the most part, like, I'm safe.
Right.
I'm okay. I'm safe. And so, yeah, that's
I mean, there's so much more that goes into it, but I just wanted to share that with you guys. The Hope House, Safe Home are two organizations. So we can put stuff in our bio
Yeah.
too, like information on that, their contact information. There's so many really good resources out there nowadays. So please, we just encourage you that if you do know anybody or suspect anything, just please, just love them and reach out and just, give them those resources. So thank you for listening to my story. I hope it really, helps somebody out there. I hope my mom's story will help somebody. I really, really do. But that being said, Joan's going to start talking about some of her stuff that, her life experiences and the things that drastically have made changes in her life. So yeah, we're going to.
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm so proud of you, Sammy.
Thank
you did
you.
so good. I know that
Thank
was
you.
so hard for you, but I'm just so proud of you for doing that. And I want to say, when you talk about how lucky you are to have
Yeah.
your life and your husband, I have been able to witness this now that you are married to a man who loves you and you feel safe with. I have seen you soften over the almost 2 years that we've known each other. I remember when we first started working together and I met you, you were just like, I am just tough. I'm bad. I walked the streets. I did all this stuff. And I thought, okay,
I walked the streets.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
I lived off these streets. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to get along with this girl. She is so tough. And then since you've been married, you've softened, you've gone through some healing and you've softened because your husband makes you feel safe. You're in a safe place now.
Absolutely.
And so all that stuff that you've clung onto and held onto for so long that you're so afraid to let go, now you're letting that go. And so that trauma is coming out. And so it's been hard for you.
Yes.
You have struggled through this.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad that you said that, Joan, because that is true. And you have said that to me before. And I didn't really realize that until you said that. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's right. I have changed so much. But it is true because I literally genuinely have not been in a relationship like I have with my husband that I have felt 100% unconditional love from a partner like that. Correct. Like my family, of course, I have. But from Cole, my husband, and a lot of stuff has been regurgitated, and we can talk about it at a different time because we're going to go through our healing stuff. But thank you for saying that. I literally could not be sitting here going through that and saying all these really difficult things without you by my side. So thank you. And I love you so much.
I love you very much.
I love you.
I love you. So I was going to, first of all, I am going to talk about the death of my husband, but there was something I talked to Sammy about this morning that had affected me this week when we were talking about what we were going to talk about on this second episode of our podcast. Sammy for sure said, well, I'm going to talk about my mom. And of course, yes, that was something that she wanted to and needed to talk about. But then I thought, well, what am I going to share? What am I going to talk about? Because I haven't been through something like that. And while I'm so grateful that I didn't go through any of that, it made me start to think, oh, well, first of all, I am an overthinker. I'm a people pleaser. I've never felt like I'm good enough, always comparing myself. So I found myself this week feeling like there's an energy shift with you and thinking, oh, Sammy maybe doesn't want me to do this episode with her. She's not going to think that my story is worthy enough, good enough. And I was really struggling. I thought, why is Sammy feeling this way? What is going on? And it wasn't until Wednesday night when I really sat and thought with my feelings, why am I feeling this way? And why am I trying to compare to Sammy's story? Because one of the best things about our relationship is our age difference, that we don't have comparisons because we're at different stages of our life. So we don't have much to compare.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we are here doing this show, as I was thinking, that, oh, I've got to show people that I've got a story that you're going to be enraptured with. And I thought, no, this is not a show. This is just us talking about our life. And once I realized that I was projecting my own insecurities onto you, thinking that you thought I was less than because that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And I finally realized that, no, Joan, it's not Sammy. This is me. And so then that was Wednesday night. And then I come to work on Thursday and it was just like, Sammy liked me again. So I realized that it wasn't that Sammy didn't like me. It was me being insecure. And I think the thing that bothered me so much was that I feel like I've done so much healing and that I was so triggered by that I reverted back to that people pleasing, thinking I'm not good enough.
Like spiraling down.
Spiraling down.
Like
when I thought I had gotten so much stronger.
Yeah.
but Sammy, you always remind me that healing is not linear.
Mhm.
And I don't think I'd been in a situation like that to be triggered
Yeah.
like that. And
Yeah.
here I was triggered. But what I'm most proud about with myself is that I was able to process all that and figure out what I was doing. And I
Mhm.
think that's just going to help me in the future when I am triggered in a similar situation
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
stop and think that it's probably internal that
Mhm.
this is happening and not the other person.
Mhm. Yeah, which I'm so proud of you. Like I told you this before we started, shooting this. Me and Joan always kind of chat together and just like, what are you thinking? What are we going to talk about and stuff. And I didn't even realize that all of this was going on the last couple of days of work. I'm just like, whatever. And I didn't even realize it. And, but it makes sense because I do know Joan's background and I do know that the people pleaser is a huge thing and wanting to be perfect and all this stuff. And the fear of like me not loving you
Correct.
unconditionally.
Fear of abandonment. It's huge.
And
yeah.
so when there is any kind of like tiny little conflict, which hardly ever happens between us, even though that wasn't like a conflict.
It wasn't.
It was just like this thing that was manifesting in your head. And like you said, you're going back into your old ways, but then you were able to like, wait a second, let me think about this. And is this really what is she thinking? And then you're like, no, like she loves me. Everything's okay. It's not a competition. I don't have to be this thing. And I'm like so proud of you for being able to do that. And then like you telling me that, I was like, really?
Well, it was just so weird though when I came to work yesterday and it was just normal. I thought, how could this just be normal when we'd gone through this week of all, but it really didn't happen. It was all in my mind.
The mind is a powerful thing.
It is powerful.
It is.
So, but I am just grateful that I have you, that I was able to open up to you because I was fearful of opening up to you. I'm always fearful of being vulnerable with people that I love and I care about because I'm afraid they're not going to accept me because I always have thought I have to be perfect. I have to do everything right for somebody to love me.
Right.
So I love you.
I love you. I love you more.
So I just want to talk about the death of my husband and kind of how that has affected me. I feel like I had a pretty normal life growing up, ups and downs, but I was well cared for. I was well provided for. I just felt like I had a normal life. Met my husband when I was 24 and we dated off and on for 8 years, a long time. Which might be able to talk about that later. But anyway, got married when I was 32 and we just started living our life. We had 2 kids, and 2 boys that are wonderful. We lived in Colorado for a while and then moved back here to Kansas City once our first son was born. And so we're just going through life. Kids are going to school. I was a stay-at-home mom for most of that time. So my husband, he was an air traffic controller and they do retire early. And so he retired at 56. And we actually had a retirement party for him. It was in October of 2015. And we had all these people over. And I remember he came to me one time at the party and said he wasn't feeling very well. And I just kind of blew it off,
Right.
No big deal. I got people to talk to. People that
I'm hosting.
Right. You go take care of yourself.
Right.
But so that was the first time that he'd even said anything.
And this was what year?
This is 2015. October of 2015. He had retired. And so anyway, time was going on. He wasn't feeling well. Things were happening. And it took 5 months for them to diagnose him. And we ended up in the emergency room. He had ended up one morning with a kidney stone. He was in so much pain. I didn't go to work and I took him to the emergency room. I said, I won't go to work. And it was taking them forever. It was a Monday morning. The very next day, we were going to take our kids and go to Colorado for spring break to go skiing. They'd never been snow skiing. I loved it. My husband loved it. We were taking them for the first time. But so anyway, David and I ended up in the emergency room and we told him what was going on. They did a CAT scan and they gave him an IV. I don't know what was in the IV, but probably something to help with his pain because he was having a lot of pain. And it was taking them forever and forever and forever. And, here I am. I'm on my phone setting up tutoring for my older son, setting up other stuff for my, being the mom.
Yeah.
And just waiting, like, where are they? And my husband, his pain is subsiding because he's on this medication.
Yeah.
And at one point I walked out into I opened the door of the emergency room and there was no one. It was a ghost town. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah. Like, and why are we here for so long?
I mean, we were there hours.
Yeah.
I think it was 3 hours we were there. And I could not figure out what was going on. I couldn't even see a doctor to say, hey, can you come in and tell us what's going on? Finally, the doctor and the nurse came in and they sat by David by his bed and they said, hey, we found out you have a kidney stone. And David and I are like, oh, it's like,
that makes sense, right? Yeah. Very painful.
Right.
I've had one.
Right. Oh, you have?
Yeah, it will go into
okay.
Yeah, it's bad.
And so then they said, but that's not your problem. And so we're waiting, and they said, you have pancreatic cancer and it has spread to your liver. And basically, it's a death sentence.
Wow.
And so, of course, we're in shock. That was
Oh
not
my
what we were
gosh.
expecting at all. And so they had said they were going to admit him to the hospital, and this was taking so much time. I'd already been gone for 3-4
Right,
hours,
right, yeah.
and our kids are at home because it's spring break. And I
Mhm.
said, I have got to go home and tell our kids
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
going on. So I did. I went home and told the kids, and of course they were shocked too. And so then we start this journey. He has to do chemo, has to do all this stuff, and he ended up living for 15 months with the pancreatic cancer. And I have told many people this, it's probably the best 15 months of our marriage, because there's nothing like being told you're going to die to start living again. And how horrible that people wait till they think they're going to die to start living again.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of time to repair things that were broken in our relationship. So I'm super grateful for that, because a lot of people said, oh, how horrible that must be to, live with that cancer. And I always say, I'm super grateful. I'm so grateful for that time. And during that time, I was just trying to keep my husband alive. I had gone back to work full time. I quit to take care of him. I was trying to keep my husband alive, trying to keep my kids' life as normal as I could. So anyway, he died in June of 2017. And there's just one story I want to tell. We were at the hospice house, which they were amazing. The hospice house, St. Luke's Hospice House. It's down near Westport. But he had gotten so skinny, and for the last week, he couldn't eat. His brain couldn't tell his mouth or his tongue to swallow the food. He had the ability to do it, but his brain couldn't tell him to do it. So he was very thin, and he knew when he was going to die. He told me he was going to die at 6:00. And I said, and so it was 6:00 this one night. I was coming to 6, and I said, David, are you ready to go to heaven?
Yeah.
He says, not yet. And I said, okay, because I thought he meant 6:00 that night.
Yeah, right.
And he was in bed, and he did this with his hand. I was sitting in a chair, and he did this with his hand, and he wanted me to come over to his bed. And so I did. And he said, I want to kiss you. And I wanted to count, because he knew it was going to be the last time. So we did, and it was very sweet. And then that night he really struggled. He tossed and turned all night and was flailing around. And I had the nurse come in several times to medicate him, and he ended up passing away. It was a little bit after 5 in the morning. Or was it 5? I can't remember. Something about that. Very close to 6. And I had told the nurse that I said he told me he was going to die at 6, and it was so close to 6. Yes. So anyway, of course I was shocked, even though I knew this was coming, you still are never prepared.
No.
Because never during this time was I preparing for how is my life going to be after.
No, right. And how am I going to feel?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I just started living my life as a mom with 2 boys. I didn't know what to do. I tried to be mom and dad, because there was no rule book for how do you deal with the death of your spouse. There was something I mentioned to you this morning when we were preparing for this. I was looking up what's the most traumatic thing that can happen in a person's life, and they gave me a list of 10, and witnessing domestic violence or being abused is in a traumatic. And then I looked up what's the most stressful. And it said the death of a spouse is the number one most stressful thing. Well, I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, because you have so many new responsibilities that all of a sudden it's like everything's on you.
Everything was on me.
Like
we've been married for 22 years.
Right. Yeah. It's a completely different life.
Completely
different.
Shift.
Just like that.
Just like that. Yeah. Overnight. And so, of course, the grief was heavy, and I was waiting every day for that door to open and have David walk through that door, which he never did. And dealing with my kids, it was difficult. Our relationships really started to struggle a lot because it was just hard for everybody.
Yeah.
And then 2 months after he died, my house kind of started to fall apart, and I had leaky windows, I had mold, I had to redo my patio. I mean, the list just goes on.
It's like all the things.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have enough. Leaky windows.
Oh, right. Let's add some more.
Yeah, just keep going. Yeah.
I was already grieving. Let's add all this to it.
Sure.
So then I got angry at David. I'm like, why did you leave me? Why did you leave me here taking care of the kids? Why did you leave me taking care of this house? Why did you leave me? I was so mad at him. But you just have to keep getting up and going and doing.
Mhm.
I had taken some time off work, and then I went back to work, and just kind of living my life. And I think it was about 3 years into this, I just really went downhill,
Yeah.
really bad. And I got very depressed, and I actually quit my job for a while because I was just struggling so much.
Mhm.
I had lost so much weight towards the end of David's cancer and after he died. Like, I think I'd lost 20 pounds. I was down to, my lowest weight was 115, which is very
Very
skinny, very
skinny.
skinny for me.
Yeah.
And then my depression, I don't even know how to describe it
Mm.
because I just never felt anything like it before. But I did get to this point, I think it was in March, I'm guessing 2020, if he died in 2017, where I just didn't want to go on living. I thought that I had no value. I thought that I had nothing to offer. I thought my kids would be better off without me. And I just couldn't see a future.
Right.
Which, thank you for you giving me that future, my friend. So I decided that I was going to end my life, and I kind of obsessed about it and spent my time Googling, looking at Reddit and all these different ways, the best way to do it. And I've decided I'm not really going to go into all of that, but I did come up with a plan of how I was going to end my life and a day that I was going to do it. My older son was at college. My younger son who was living with me at the time, was going to be at an event away from the house, so I wasn't worried about him being there. My brother and sister-in-law knew that I was struggling, and my sister-in-law called me that day to check on me, and she could tell I wasn't doing well. And she says, Joan, I'm going to put your brother on the phone. And so he got on the phone and he said, Joan, we're going to come see you tonight. And
is this your older brother or
yes,
younger brother?
my older brother.
Okay.
He says, we're going to come see you tonight. And I said, that would be good.
Yeah.
And then I hear him, he goes back to talk to his wife, and they're talking. I can't hear what they're saying, but then he gets back on the phone and he said, oh, it's going to have to be tomorrow. And now,
You were set.
I was set, and now he's coming, so now he can find me. I don't have to worry about my kids finding me. He's going to find me.
Wow.
But I just had the wherewithal enough that when he was coming to see me, that I wasn't going to do that. And he got there and he said, Joan, I have to take you to the hospital. I said, nope.
Yeah, you're like, I do not want to be
doing
there.
that. I mean, talking about your mom, like not wanting to tell people and not wanting to be exposed. I didn't want to be exposed.
Oh no. You're going to have to deal with all that?
No. And then I thought, I'm going to look weak because I can't go on with my life and people are going to judge me. And I did not want to be exposed.
Yeah.
And he said, you have to, Joan, you're calling out. You're calling out and I have to. So I said, okay. You're right, you do. And he says, do you want to call your kid live with me? My younger son, when I called him, I know he was devastated. He was shocked. He didn't know how to deal with it. And I said, I'm okay. I'm going to be fine, but I have to leave. And so my brother did took me to the hospital. And boy, howdy, when you tell them at the hospital that you're wanting to harm yourself, they strip you of everything.
Yes, they do.
Talk about so humiliating.
Oh, yeah.
So humiliating. That just made it even worse for me.
Yeah.
And that
You're
was
so
my
vulnerable.
Fear. Oh my gosh. I had to say what I was doing. I had to say what I was feeling. I had to say what I was planning on doing.
Yeah. To complete strangers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how long we were there. We were there for several hours, but they finally, and they of course did blood tests on me.
Yeah.
They did all these tests, and they finally said, we're not going to admit you because you're not as bad off as the people on the ward, and you being here would make it worse for you. Which, of course, I had some relief that I wasn't.
You're like, yeah, I gotta go home.
Yeah. But my brother's like, she seems fine now, but you did not see her. You did not see her yesterday. Yeah, he was very concerned. You did not see her yesterday. Right. And so one note I have to say on that is, when they did release me, I was telling my brother, I said, they're really kind of profiling me, judging me.
That's very interesting.
Right. By the way I appeared, the way I acted, which there's plenty of people out there who have ended their life who look
Mhm.
normal on the outside.
Oh yeah, I feel like majority of people that are
Right.
struggling with depression like you
Right.
are so well at hiding it because
Mhm.
they don't want to hurt other people, just like
Correct.
you said.
Correct.
Which that kind of makes me a little mad
Well, my brother
and
wasn't real
upset
happy
that
about
they
it.
just were like,
Right.
"You're okay."
Right. And
Like
sent me on my way.
you're
Well, now they did say I'm going to go to intensive therapy. And
Mhm.
so I did start that
Mhm.
on that Monday.
Okay.
But I was so grateful. So then
Mhm.
my younger brother, I'm back at home now,
Mhm.
and I had to call my younger brother, and he came to see me so I could
Mhm.
kind of explain my story to him.
Mhm.
And he would spend the night with me a couple nights. And my brother and sister-in-law were in constant communication with me and helped me so much. I'm so grateful for my family
Yeah.
because I wouldn't be here had it not been for them.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful. But then the struggle to rebuild my life after that.
Yeah.
My brother really, one of the main reasons that I wanted to end my life is because of my relationship with my kids. It had, it was hard
Yeah.
after their dad died. It was just hard. And I really thought they'd be better off without me. And I really thought that I would never have a good relationship with them because I felt like I was broken and I couldn't love them the way they needed to be loved. I couldn't protect them. I couldn't do all the things that a mother was supposed to do. But my brother really encouraged me to break some patterns with my kids, um, just to repair that relationship. And so I started with that process, and it was slow. It
Yeah.
was slow and go. But, and I've told you this so many times, and my kids, the relationship I have with them now
Yeah.
is so unbelievable. I am so lucky. And I talked to my older son about this a couple of years ago. I told him because he hadn't heard my whole story, and I told him,
Yeah.
and he hugged me. We stood after they ended up talking to him. We both stood up and hugged, and I went to let go of that hug. You know how you hug and you feel like it's long enough, and you go to let go.
Yeah.
He wouldn't let
Yeah.
go of me.
Yeah.
He hugged me tighter.
Mhm.
And he says, Mom, you've helped me so much in my life. I'm so glad you didn't hurt yourself. I'm so glad you're here. And even in the last month, I told you
Yeah.
on 2 separate occasions, I was with one son and then the other son, and then they both, it was just a moment that we had where I knew
Yeah.
that they felt my love. I knew.
You knew it. You
I
knew it.
I knew it.
Unconditional love.
Unconditional. They felt it.
Yeah.
And that's all I have ever wanted.
Mhm.
That's all I've ever wanted. And if I wasn't here, I wouldn't have been able to experience that.
I'm so unbelievably proud of you.
Thank you.
Seriously, you made that choice. And I know we've talked about this, but you made the choice to keep living.
Right.
You
When I
made
didn't
that.
want to.
Nobody else did that.
Yeah.
You did that. And it has been so beautiful for me to be able to see these changes because I didn't know you before that.
Right.
I know you now.
Right.
I know you, this Joan that I know. And you've talked to me about your fear of, that your sons don't feel that same love that you feel for them. And you're always wanting to make sure. And then me hearing you say that and tell me what these experiences. And I remember when you conversation, and I remember being like, oh, just so amazing.
It is.
And I'm so proud
just
of you.
the love.
Love.
The love that fills my heart when I'm with them. I can't even describe it. It's something I haven't ever really felt before.
Right.
And
you created that.
Yes. And it's so cool.
It's so cool.
So cool.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's something else I want to say, and we had talked about this earlier about comparison, because I'm, always comparing because I think that I'm not enough. And I, when I talk about what's happened in my life, or when Sammy talks about what's happened in her life, I don't want anybody to feel like we're better or worse than them, or we dealt with it in a better way or a worse way. I feel like we're both here just to share our life experiences and how they have affected us and how we have dealt with it and how we are trying to deal with it. It's not about pointing fingers or being better than anyone or being any kind of comparison. It's just hoping that we have some healing as we go through this process of being vulnerable and sharing our experiences. And
absolutely,
maybe if one or two of you out there has been in a similar situation and us talking about ours, if that helps you, then we've done something here. We've done what we came here for.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I love that Joan says that because Lord knows that we have stumbled along the way. Like
many times. Still stumble.
healing is hard.
Healing is very hard.
You have to work on it. You have to make that choice. Like you have to. If not, they will drag you down. And we have been dragged down. We have been where we're like trying to like swim and we're sinking. And you know, you're not alone. Whatever situation you're in, you're not alone. Like so much and we've said this about our podcast, so much of it's like social media, like it's a facade. It's not real. Everyone's perfect. Everyone's like, oh, well, look how easy their life is. Look how perfect it is. Wrong.
Not, right.
It's not. It's not real. And
now, I will like Sammy and I do love to go to cute places and
we
take
do.
cute
We like
pictures
to be
and dress
cute.
up. We do. So we do like to look
we
good.
like that.
Okay.
But we're doing this because like we want
to show you the other side.
We want to show you the other side, and we want people to reach out and be like, oh my gosh, like this is our story. Like this has helped me, or like I would love to hear stories from you guys, and it will help us because we are always growing and changing and learning, and like like she said, we're not perfect. There's no comparison. Like my story doesn't trump their story versus vice versa. Like everybody has a story. Everybody has sadness and trauma and things that happen to them. It's life. We're just here to maybe like shine some light on it and like just help. That's it. And it's really funny because we talked about this too. So many people are like, how long did it take you to edit your stuff? Like, are you editing? Are you doing this? And we're like, what? No. Like we're literally
just putting it out there.
We're talking and then we're like, oh, that's good. Okay. Let's figure out how to upload it. Like that took us forever last time. So, we just love life. We're trying to just navigate it together. And, we're here.
We are very lucky that we have each other, that we found each other.
We are very lucky.
Both going through healing at the same time. So we are lucky to have each other. And that's one reason that we want to be here, to show you that we can be here too for you.
It's so important. It's so important because even though we have like completely different life stories and different, ups and downs and experiences and things like that, we're both, willing. That's the thing. We're both willing to want to heal and change. And we help each other with that. Like we want to grow, because if you're not growing, you're dying.
Well, we want the best life that we can have for ourselves and for our loved ones.
We do.
Period.
We do. So, I know that was hard for us. It might be hard for you guys to listen to, but we really do appreciate it. We appreciate the love and the support that we've gotten already.
And thank you for giving us a safe place to do this.
It's really been really cool. So we just really hope that you guys enjoy it, and we're going to continue doing this. Not all of these are going to be so heavy, but it was really important for us to start here, and then we just want to keep going with it. So
because we want to show you what we've experienced and why we are dealing with things that need to be healed.
Yeah. So that being said,
thank you for so much for listening and watching.
And we will see you next
very
time.
Soon. Cheers. Love you.
Oh.